Today on Locked On Rockies, it's that time of year. We got to talk about New Year's resolutions for the Purple Pinstripes.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of December, the final Locked On Rockies podcast for 2023. It has been a massive year for the Locked On Rockies podcast. Before we go any further today, I have to say thank you to all of you out there, not only for making us your first listen of the day, not only for being an everydayer, but for having this be the biggest year in Locked On Rockies history. Thank you so much. 50,000 downloads on the podcast this year, something that I don't know if the podcast has ever done. It is definitely the most that we're currently sitting at the most episode downloads that we've ever had for the show. You folks are continue to tune in throughout the offseason during a really tough stretch to be a Rockies fan. So before we even dive into anything, before I even finish the intro rigmarole, I wanted to at least say with a very, very heartfelt thank you, or I wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you out there for tuning in, all of you out there for making us your first listen of the day, all of you who've tuned in for a second or who've caught every pod of the season and off season. Thank you. Really, really do appreciate it. The show wouldn't be where it's at without all of you. So thank you so much for that. And again, thanks so much for being your first listen of the day. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Rockies Podcast Network, the Locked On Podcast Network, where the Locked On Rockies are. See what happens when I mess up my little intro. If I don't just do the mental script that I have running in here, I mix it all up. I screw it up. I mix up my words. I get all over the place. But we're on your favorite streaming services. We're also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show and where your subscription is the best way to help the show grow. Really, really do appreciate all of you who've been checking out the videos over there and been checking out the video podcast on as well. So thank you so much. Today on the show, we're going to talk New Year's resolutions for the Colorado Rockies, of course, because, well, what else would we talk about? It's New Year's resolution talking time. That's what we do on holiday weekends such as this. We're going to dive into that. I have some ideas that what I'd like to see from the Rockies, and I have a one or two for the fans out there as well. And I'm just giving some ideas, and I'll give my kind of thoughts on what I'm going to do when it comes to my Rockies resolutions this year as well. We're going to do all of that on today's episode. Before we dive into everything today, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right. So New Year's resolutions for the Rockies. And I'm going in with this is it's stuff, and some of these won't be that big of a surprise, but it's stuff that I'd like to see the Rockies do next year. As an organization on the field, I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at it. And at the end of the day, it's just a goofy little holiday fun thing. But the first resolution I want to see from the Rockies, as we're going through this transitional year, as we're coming out of the worst season win-loss total than we've ever had, I want to hear more from this team. I want to hear more from the people that run this team. I want more transparency and more communication from this team. And I know it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a ton, but I want to see this team hold more press conferences. I want to see this team answer more questions from reporters. I want to see this organization own up to where they're at. That's really I think on at the top of the list of the things that I want to see from the organization is that I want this team to hold itself more accountable. I want this team to make himself more available to the criticisms and the outside perceptions and what people are saying, because it just feels like the wall is so built up between the Rockies front office organization and the fan. I know you can email Dick Momfort and he'll email you back, and then you get a cent from my iPad, and that's all fine and dandy. But this team doesn't do press conferences. This team hasn't even given us didn't even do the end of the season. Bill Schmidt didn't have to answer a ton of questions at the end of this season, where Rockies fans should be sitting there with a ton of them, and the Rockies should have to answer them. Even if they're weak, no answers, they should still have to put themselves in situations where they need to face the music of the situation that they're in right now. Whether they believe that they're worse off or not, or regardless of what their answers would be, this team needs to open itself up more. This team needs to allow people to come in and ask the tough questions about this organization to those people, and the people running the organization deserve to have the chance to say what they want to say and say how they're feeling about this team. Right now, I really don't know how the Rockies necessarily feel. We got one little bit of information, a little bit of stuff from Bill Schmidt from the winter meetings about the Rockies' not that exciting plans for the offseason. Me personally, I have a massive problem with this team brushing 103 losses under the rug. I really do. This was an anniversary celebrating year. Still not even 5 years removed from the last playoff contention window. It's getting close, actually. Was it? Yeah, it's about 5 years, actually. It's only 5 years removed from the playoff. Oh my God, it's already 5 years. Yow. But to not have any sort of comment, any sort of debrief, any sort of anything to end the season and wrap things up, and to give us really nothing at the winter meetings, I have great concerns with the way this team is looking at 103 losses and the state of this team and the downward trajectory of this team. I want to know why this organization believes in this coaching staff. I want to know why this organization believes in this young core of players. I want to know why this organization isn't being more aggressive when it comes to going after free agent pitchers. And there might be answers to these questions, but we don't get them. We don't get any of the answers. It doesn't seem like we get really many opportunities to hear from the Rockies. There's no Bill Schmidt radio hit that I know about that he can at least come and toe the company line and say things. There's none of that. Every offseason, for people that are actually passionate and care about this team, we continue to just sit in this spiral of what if. When in reality, this team, it goes back to what I've been preaching all of this offseason and throughout the year. This team and its identity and in the way they run itself, that's fundamentally where my biggest frustrations lie. Because I want to know how this team is going to handle this new look NL West. I want to know what the Rockies are thinking about the two massive signings the Dodgers made, the massive signing the Giants made, the massive trades and the reshifting the Diamondbacks are doing, and eventually the moves that the Padres are going to make. Because they're going to do something, and mixed with the fact of the players that they already still have and have committed money to, I want to know what the Rockies are thinking about when it comes to their division rivals. Even I am at this point just asking for boilerplate, basic answers from the front office and the people that run this team, and we don't even get those. I have to wait until January to hear from the GM. I have to wait till January to hear from Dick Monfort. All while you're selling your season ticket packages, all while you're selling this, all while you're advertising your Star Wars night already. This team deserves to be grilled, and they should be ready to own up to it. They should be able to tell us their plan, but they never have. And the question still remains if they ever will. And mixed with this wall of communication, I think the Rockies are preventing themselves from building history. And I want to know what the future of the Rockies look like. So let's talk a little bit more about that coming up in segment number 2. Also give my thoughts for a New Year's resolution for the Rockies fan as well. We're going to do that coming up here in segment number 2. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel, and right now at FanDuel.com/lockedon, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Maybe you believe the quarterback change for the Denver Broncos will help them in the last 2 weeks of the year. Maybe you're riding high on the Denver Nuggets or hoping the Colorado Avalanche bounce back. Well, if you put a $5 moneyline bet and your team wins, $150 in bonus bets there at FanDuel.com/lockedon. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL playoffs. NFL postseason right around the corner. Crazy, right? FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. You can also find on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. You can also subscribe to the Locked On Rockies podcast, so you know when the episodes post. We're talking New Year's resolutions for the Rockies, and my biggest one for this team is I want more communication and transparency from them. And in addition to that is I want the Rockies to tell us about the future of this organization. I want to know what the plans for Coors Field are in 10 years. I want to know what the plans are to honor the history of the Colorado Rockies. I want to know what the plan is if Todd Helton gets into the Hall of Fame. I want to know more about what this team is going to do to build the legacy and the history around this team and the opportunities that they might have upcoming, that they've thought about, what they've learned from another anniversary season, what they kind of hope they wanted to do. And just, I want to know more about what do the Colorado Rockies also look like in Denver and with Coors Field and everything 10 years from now. Not just the team. Of course, that's one thing, but are there new facility plans? Are there upgrade plans? Are there any sort of plans that we should know about? And I think that's something the Rockies should focus on. And that kind of falls into my resolution of I want better communication from this team. So that's just something kind of small too. I really think my biggest wish of Rockies people that are looking at a new year and a new opportunity, it comes with the front office. That those are the people I really want to know and hear from the most when it comes to that stuff. But for the Rockies fan itself, what should the Rockies fans' resolution be? And honestly, this is going to sound, I'm trying to phrase this in the best way possible because your passion is earned. I love that there's crazy Rockies fans out there that really love and care and are diehards about this team. But part of me, I can't sit here and say that I think I'm just going to say how I think it is. I think the Rockies fans should care less. I do. I think that this year you should just look at it as a stepping stone year, as a year of big picture focus, that rolling through the losses, not trying to get so upset when your team loses and taking too much stock in that, looking for the smaller storylines and just enjoying baseball. Because again, if you've heard me say this before, if you want to go to Coors, go to Coors. I will go to Coors when I'm in town over the summers. I will always go to Coors Field. It's okay to just enjoy the fact that there's pro baseball in Colorado for some fans. It really is. I know you probably don't want to hear that as a diehard Rockies fan during a time where Rockies fandom is critically low. But in a season like this that we're facing upcoming for the Rockies, you're just going to have to find ways to enjoy it, because unless we see some more changes, unless we start seeing things move in a different direction, you kind of know what we're getting next year, right? Like are you as the Rockies fan, are you going to be really surprised if next year goes pretty similar to this year? Maybe you are, and you're disappointed by the way some of these young guys are, and there's an underperforming there, and that's frustrating. But I think this year, for Rockies fans, you just need to go in with the mindset of, we'll see what happens. I think that's really the best way to approach every game that's going to happen for the Rockies next year. I really think that that's kind of where the expectation level is at for the Rockies is, I don't know, we'll see. There's so many players. We have to see what the second year in the big leagues is going to do, what happens when teams have time to adjust to them, how they, new positions, new roles, new this, new that, blah, 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 blah. This year might just be a year to sit and watch baseball and enjoy seeing other teams as well, and getting to know these young guys and getting to know the young core of the Colorado Rockies. So I feel kind of crazy when I'm saying that my New Year's resolution for the Rockies fan is to care less, because it just seems like an insult kind of to the diehards. But I think if you take so much stock and continue to get so frustrated by the same exact things, you're going to lose your overall and the things that you do enjoy about Rockies baseball. Even with how frustrating the Rockies are, you wouldn't be a Rockies fan if you weren't able to ride through some frustrating times. You wouldn't be watching the Rockies and following them this much consistently if you haven't rode through the tough times. So this year, I think you just have to use it as a way to find what you enjoy about Rockies baseball and enjoy that. Still be frustrated, still get upset, and still be vocal about your team. Absolutely. I'm not telling you to shy away or shy away from anything. But sometimes you're going to just have to kick your feet up, open that beer, and watch what happens with the Rockies that night. And, if you get frustrated, if you get fired up, if things boil your blood, then that's good. That means the pulse is alive and well in your Rockies fandom, and it shows you still care. But if it's going to be a painful season, don't make it extra painful on yourself by only focusing on the negatives, only focusing on this, because guess what? Dick Monfort's still going to own the team next year. He's going to own it the year after that. The stadium is probably going to have a lot of people in it. So if you tell yourself in the middle of July and tickets are cheap and you want to go downtown because it's a beautiful day and you want to go kick your feet up and see what happens with the Rockies, that's okay. But on the flip side, if you're done, you're done. This team hasn't done enough to really garner your interest. In a world where there's so many sports, so many activities, and hopefully a Denver Nuggets team that's going to be playing well into June, it's okay if the Rockies don't earn your time, because they have to do that. They have to earn your time. So I'm not, obviously, hey, part of my livelihood is talking about the Rockies. Of course I want Rockies fans to care. Of course I want you to tune in. Of course I want to do that. But that's kind of the way I'm thinking about the Rockies this year. Can I really do another year where I just sit and continue to get overly frustrated about every small little thing about the Rockies? Well, yeah, that's part of my job as a podcaster. It's definitely going to be what I do. But there's another part of me that's not how I want to enjoy and experience Rockies baseball this year. I want to be a realist. I don't want to ignore the problems. I don't want to ignore the issues. Because there's going to just be some days I just want to watch Nolan Jones play baseball. I just want to see what what the McMahon, Rogers, Tovar infield really looks like. I want to see Chris Bryant play. I want to see a season of Chris Bryant. I want to see a full season of healthy Chris Bryant. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to focus on, because I'm this year especially. I'm not going to just buy into, unless this team really impresses with really great steps forward from its young guys. I'm not going to sit here and hold my breath about the Rockies being a 2-year turnaround team. I just kind of want to go back to finding enjoyment of Rockies baseball. And I think that's what a lot of fans need right now. The Rockies fans need something to cheer about. The Rockies fans need something to enjoy. The Rockies fans need something positive to help them. And I think by altering your perception of this 2020, just focusing on the 2024 season, you might get a little love back for just watching your guys, watching your team. I mean, I'll still always have that little bit of enjoyment watching the team and enjoying it. So I don't know. And so care less is kind of a harsh way of setting that up. But it's okay if you've moved on from the Rockies because they have not earned your time. And it's okay if you care so much that you want to take a step back because it's impacting your sports fandom, your enjoyment of the game, your enjoyment of the Rockies. Because 2024 isn't the year for the Rockies. Most likely. Baseball's weird. Baseball's crazy. You really, truly never know. But I think a change in perspective and a change in mindset for the Rockies fan would be not a bad New Year's resolution. And it's, again, another moment where it's another example and another thing that the front office should be watching for and learning from, because it's not good, the state of the Rocky fan. And if you got me, a diehard Rockies fan telling you to care less, that's not a good thing either. But it's got to be earned as well. Your time is valuable. Your money is valuable. All that is valuable. And so, I don't know. Am I crazy? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Put it, what's your Rockies New Year's resolution? Let me know there in the comments here on the YouTube side, or you can always let me know on X there at LO Rockies. On the field New Year's resolutions for the Rockies, I think it's plain and simple. And I'm going to tell you what I think is the biggest New Year's resolution for the Rockies coming up here in segment number 3. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. I'm Paul Holden, your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Following this team my entire life, been bringing you your Rockies podcast here for over 3 seasons. We've been talking about New Year's resolutions for the Colorado Rockies today. Talk about the organization, talk about the fans, and kind of mixed in with my Rockies resolution there. But what about on the field? What's the on the field New Year's resolution for the Rockies? I think the biggest one for the Rockies next year should be this. It should be take better at bats. Draw longer counts, draw walks, and strike out less. I think fundamentally one of the biggest things that the Rockies need to focus on this season is becoming better at the dish, becoming better professional hitters, becoming players that don't get blown away on 3 pitches, become players that fight things off and help this team surprise, draw out pitchers, make innings longer for the opposition. That's the thing that will make Rockies baseball infinitely more enjoyable for me to watch this year. And I think will help the Rockies win close games, will help the Rockies actually go on nice streaks this year, is if their offense and their approach to offense improves. The Rockies can't continue to be a bottom of the barrel offensive team. They just can't. But the problem is it's just going to get harder. The Dodgers have retooled and reloaded starting pitching, and they're going to have more coming. The Giants always stifle the Rockies. The Diamondbacks stifled the Rockies last year. This team was abysmal against their rivals, and they were abysmal against other teams, and they weren't that great on offense at home. They're saving grace. The number one resolution for the Rockies has to be better at bats. The pitching is going to be a problem. The pitching, they're going to have to deal with. The pitching is going to be an issue that's going to continue to haunt and plague them until they reestablish quality depth in the starting. But the biggest thing the Rockies can do, And I think because there's so many players that need to take steps forward and continue to grow and progress as offensive threats for the Rockies. The best thing that the Rockies can do, the number one New Year's resolution, I think, for Rockies players has to be better at bats, has to be cutting down on strikeouts, has to be increasing walks. That's how these other teams are winning. Good, successful, clean offense. Strikeouts kill the Rockies. They strike out far too often in key situations. They strike out far too often with runners in scoring position. And they strike out, just plain and simple, far too often. If the Rockies change this, they don't lose 100 games next year. And it's the step on it signals that this team is making adjustments. It signals that this team has the right hitting instructors and right hitting approach. And it means that the young guys are handling major league pitching and situations where major league pitching has had time to adapt to them. I really don't think there's anything more important for the Colorado Rockies to do next year than to take steps forward as an offense and from the approach down. I'm talking more hits. It doesn't matter what type of hits. I want more extra base hits. I want more base on balls. I want more offense. Because if you really want us to buy into this team, the offense has to be good. That has to be your selling point with these young guys. That has to be the selling point for the next wave. Good defense isn't enough. It's not enough for the Rockies, and it's not enough for the fans. So easily, I think without a doubt, the biggest on the field New Year's resolution for the Colorado Rockies has to be better approach on offense, better at bats, less strikeouts. That's when we can start feeling good about the Rockies and who they have, is if we're seeing those trends decrease instead of increase. What are your Rockies resolutions? What do you think the team should be focused on going into the new year? What are your Rockies resolutions? Let me know on X or on the Locked On Rockies YouTube page in the Locked On Rockies comment section. You can find us there on YouTube. And folks, what a wonderful 2023. Thank you so much. Well, the Rockies season itself wasn't great in 2023, but your support, your participation here on the Locked On Rockies podcast was incredible. Thank you so much for making us your first listen all year long. And folks, as my throat is giving out here, going into the holiday, thank you again. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. If you're looking for more podcast action, go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Sully's got tons of great stuff for you there. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs podcasts have you covered. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.